There is currently a constant stream of positive news for Bitcoin happening right now. I tried to summarize it, but I didn't have time. So I'm going to try to fill you in on just some of the biggest stories in the world of Bitcoin over the last week or two. Now, it's hard to remember all these because these are all off the top of my head. But Texas bought $10 million of Bitcoin for their strategic Bitcoin reserve. So there you go. Anybody who thinks Bitcoin's a scam, seriously, do you think the entire state of Texas got scammed? Come on, give me a break. The Harvard University announced that they had significantly increased their stake in Bitcoin, and it is now larger than $150 billion or something like that, some ridiculously large number of investment, and I believe they have hundreds of millions of dollars of Bitcoin. I think the one of the Gulf states in the United Arab Emirates now has about $500 million of Bitcoin that they've accumulated. Additionally, JP Morgan announced that they are doing a Bitcoin-backed bond that's available to their customers. That's a big deal because JP Morgan has historically been one of the most, what would you call it, skeptical of all of the organizations. So JP Morgan now has officially bent the knee and embraced Bitcoin by offering it to their clients in the form of a interesting hybrid bond. Additionally, let's see, Bank of America, which includes Merrill Lynch and one other organization, I can't remember, announced that they are now, as of I think January 15, if I remember right, something like that, January 15, going to allow their financial advisors to recommend a Bitcoin allocation of between 1% and 4% to their customers. That, again, is a big deal because Bank of America, like JP Morgan, has been one of the longtime holdouts that has refused to allow their financial advisors to recommend Bitcoin to customers. So Bank of America has now bent the knee. Merrill Lynch bent the knee. JP Morgan bent the knee. All of these organizations that said, hey, we are the traditional financial, we are the banking system, we are the financial system, we don't need Bitcoin. One by one, they are dropping and bending the knee to Bitcoin. The big one, the big one. I cannot believe I didn't lead with this one. The biggest of the holdouts is Vanguard. Vanguard, I think, has about $11 trillion under management in their Vanguard funds. And I think they're like second biggest behind BlackRock. I think BlackRock is the largest money manager in the world. And BlackRock, of course, pioneered a Bitcoin ETF, exchange traded fund. So BlackRock has, their CEO has been, which his name is Larry Fink. So Larry Fink was originally a Bitcoin skeptic years ago, became a hardcore believer in Bitcoin, and ultimately BlackRock championed the Bitcoin exchange traded funds, which is why they are universally available from numerous providers now. Well, the big holdout when BlackRock did that was Vanguard. Vanguard announced that they would absolutely not allow any of their customers to buy Bitcoin exchange traded funds. And not only were they not going to roll out their own Bitcoin exchange traded fund themselves, which would be a Vanguard, product, they were also going to block anyone from buying Bitcoin products on their platform. And Vanguard has a massive platform with, 50 million users or something like that, some very large number of users. So they announced not only were they not going to roll out a Bitcoin product, but they were going to block anyone from buying any Bitcoin products. And at the time they did that, they actually had a Bitcoin futures ETF called BITO, which was a Bitcoin futures ETF. It did not hold actual Bitcoin. It just held futures contracts on Bitcoin. But anyway, they had allowed customers to buy that. But as part of the rollout of the Bitcoin ETFs, Vanguard was so staunchly against Bitcoin that they blocked that futures ETF. So even though their customers had been able to buy that for a couple of years, since 2021, for 3 years, even though for 3 years their customers had been able to buy a Bitcoin futures ETF, they blocked access to it and said you could not buy anything Bitcoin related on their platform. Now, why do I bring all this up? Because this week, Vanguard reversed course and said they were opening up and now going to allow people to buy Bitcoin products on the Vanguard platform. So once again, Vanguard bends the knee. So there you have it. In the course of just a couple of weeks, you went from all of these skeptical organizations to suddenly everybody from JP Morgan to Bank of America, Merrill Lynch, Vanguard, all bending the knee, all admitting that they need Bitcoin a lot more than Bitcoin needs them, and deciding to open their platforms and greenlight their wealth advisors to recommend Bitcoin. In the case of Bank of America, for allocations between 1% and 4%. Additionally, that is just some of the news related to Bitcoin. Charles Schwab, one of the largest platforms in the world for people to buy and sell stocks and stuff, announced that they are going to start the allowing Bitcoin exchanges on their platform starting in early 2026. So that means, in addition to logging into the Charles Schwab platform, and again, this is sort of the same Charles Schwab that I think one of the Schwabs, Klaus Schwab, is I forget which, WEF, World Economic Forum, I think that's his deal, or something like that. Somehow he's involved. Anyway, so Schwab has historically been, at least somewhat skeptical. They have announced now that they will allow the buying and selling of Bitcoin natively on their platform. So this is not just a Bitcoin ETF. This is actual buying and selling Bitcoin, just like you can do on Coinbase or River. Now, that's a huge deal because Charles Schwab is massive. In fact, most of the financial stuff is done by either Charles Schwab or Fidelity. Those are the two biggest ones. And now you will be able to do Bitcoin buying and selling on their platform on either platform. So that is, again, a huge deal. So all of these things are just absolutely stacking up, where you've got, news story upon news story upon news story of big things happening. And especially when Charles Schwab, when you can buy and sell Bitcoin on there, just like you can on Coinbase, again, it just opens it up to tens of millions of more users that did not previously have access. So I know I'm missing some news stories because, that's just literally off the top of my head. But every time I log into Twitter or Facebook, I see more and more news stories about all the incredible things happening with regard to Bitcoin adoption worldwide. So in just a minute here, I will do a video about why is Bitcoin's price only $92,500 when all of this amazing stuff is happening. So shortly here, I will try to do that video and give my insights onto that. So stay tuned.